If you have decided to quit your job and start a new business, and you are wondering what to do so that you don't completely ruin your life, you're in the right place, because we're going to look at the 3 most important things you need to consider so that you have the smoothest, easiest takeoff for your new enterprise. Hi, I'm Celia Sankar, and I help budding and blossoming entrepreneurs to start and scale their business. So you're about to leave your job, or you're considering doing just that. I know how it feels. It can be a very, very scary time, and it can be a very stressful time as well, because it's something new. Maybe you have worked since you were a teenager, and this is the first time that you will be without a job, and it feels like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. But it is also possibly the best thing you can do for your financial future, because being an entrepreneur gives you the best chance of earning beyond the normal range that the typical worker, even in higher level jobs, can earn. Being your own boss, being the boss, opens up the possibility for unlimited earnings. But there's always the caution that business is littered with companies that go bankrupt.
You went bankrupt?
Yep. And so it's wise to be cautious. So we'll be looking at 3 important areas to consider, and the framework we will be using is, first we will look at for whom it is a good idea or the right time to quit his or her job, your job, and move on to the next phase of life, the exciting phase of life as an entrepreneur. We'll also look at how to make that transition, and the third aspect we will be looking at is why. So first of all, when you're looking at leaving a job and starting a business, a very important thing to consider is whether you are at the stage of life to be that person, the one who takes the leap into the exciting adventure of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone.
It's not for you, Jen.
And it is, even for those for whom it is the right path, it may not be the right path now. You have to make an assessment as to whether your current circumstances match up with the ideal circumstances for taking that leap into entrepreneurship. So what are the qualities or the traits that you would find, or the circumstances more so, for someone who is ready and for whom it would be a good move to take the leap from employee to self-employed or becoming the boss in a business? The first thing to consider is your finances. That ideally should be in a situation that would allow you to, if things don't pick up with the business immediately, you would be able to sustain both the business and yourself. So that would require you to look at your living expenses and the business expenses and work out how much you would need to maintain both, to sustain both, if the business takes a little while to get to where it can support itself and support you and the other employees. A good general rule is to have 6 months cushion. 6 months might even be a little under what you should have. Ideally, you would be able to take care of yourself and the business for a 12 to 18 month period. That is the ideal. If you're in that position, fantastic. If you have less, it doesn't mean that you should not at all, because we will speak a little bit more about the circumstances that may work in your favor, circumstances that are not ideal, that can be a benefit to you. Another consideration, it's easier for someone to make that leap when they are at a stage of life that they don't have dependents, either parents, elderly parents, or young children whose needs have to be taken care of. Those needs have to be a priority, and having to run a business and take on the financial stresses of a business, as well as live up to your responsibilities to your dependents, that can become a very tricky situation to deal with. And also someone who is in a good place to move out from the world of employment and into the world of entrepreneurship is someone who has the freedom to tough it out and the flexibility to tough it out. So someone who is young, and interestingly, someone who is older can have that flexibility, again, because someone who is younger does not have the responsibilities that someone in their middle of their life would have. And the same for someone who's older, whose kids have left home. The younger person may not have kids as yet. So the life circumstances can allow you that freedom to take risks, to set up your own business and grapple with all of the challenges that come with it. The business is going to take a lot out of you, mentally, physically, time-wise, and if you are able to devote your time to it because you don't have those responsibilities at home, or if you have a partner or a family member or a friend who can relieve you of the burdens, then that's the situation in which someone who has those other responsibilities can move out of employment into self-employment or becoming the boss in your own company. Now, that is not to say that someone whose situation is the complete opposite of what the ideal is. And the ideal, once again, is that you have enough saved up that you can weather the storms for 6 months for the least period. The shortest period we're looking at is 6 months, but ideally a year to a year and a half. So if that's not your situation, if you are one who has heavy financial responsibilities, taking care of dependents, taking care of a mortgage, and as well, if you do not have help to take care of the dependents and the responsibilities at home, it does not mean that this is a course or path that's totally ruled out for you, because for some people, this can actually be an advantageous situation. We are all different, and what may work for some people may not work for others. And for some people, this situation that sounds horrible, that sounds painful and so far from the ideal, may be the very thing they need to give them the most powerful why in the world, that they find superhuman strength. Maybe that's you, that with all of those responsibilities, that is what is going to push you to work those extra hours, to make that extra call, to walk through the rain and knock on those doors, because you have this drive, you have those responsibilities that you have to live up to. So it's important that you look at your situation. Each person has to look at his or her situation, understand himself or herself, and realize, this leap that I'm going to take, how is it going to work into my current circumstances, and how will I be able to manage that? Okay, so we've looked at who is in a good position to leave the business, it's important to look at your own circumstances and see how that matches up for you. The next thing to consider is when. When is a good time to leave a job and start a business? And actually, we're going to cheat a little here, because the best time to leave a job and go build your business is after you have already started a business while you were on your job and have been running it as a side hustle for long enough that that business has grown to the point that it is earning you more than you earn as an employee. So the absolute best way to do this is not to quit your job and start a business. That is doing it the hard way. The better way is to start the business on the side hustle, as it's termed.
It's called a hustle, sweetheart.
Start the business on the side while you are gainfully employed, and work that business. So you get to understand the inner workings of the business. You get to make establish relationships with suppliers. You understand the rhythm of the market. You know what the slow times are. You know when it's busy. You get to understand your customers, and you have enough experience so that you can hit the ground running when you leave your job and you go full-time with your business. But more than that, your business should be paying you more than your job. That is the best time to quit your job and start a new business. The person who is in the best place to quit his job or her job and start a business is the person who has been running a business on the side, and that business is generating more than the job. That is the ideal position to be in, to quit your job and go fully into your business. Establish it as 100% your involvement. I know it's cheating a little to say that, because it's not starting your business at that point. It is more so going full-time. But that is the sweet spot. That's the ideal arrangement. Work for as long as you need to, build up the finances, get the business up and running, and that will give you enough confidence to go full-time into your business. That way the business has proven itself, and it is less risky to give up the stability of a job, the paycheck that's coming in month after month, and you don't need the paycheck anymore. You can rest assured that the job, the business that you've started will sustain you. The advantage of taking that approach of working your side hustle for as long as it's necessary to have the business take off is that you would have gained so much experience that you will give your business an even better chance of flourishing from that point on, when you can give it 100% of your time. And when you leave your job for a business that's already proven itself, you will have so much less stress, so much less worry and sense of uncertainty, that you would be in a better place to make the best of it. When, again, you're considering the timing of leaving your job and going into business full-time, you would ideally have a business plan in place. So before considering taking that move, that leap, you should ideally have a full business plan laid out, that you know what you will be doing for the next minimum 1 year, but again, ideally 3 to 5 years. A 3 to 5 year business plan would give you the confidence to make that bold move into your new life. You'll have a roadmap to guide you as you move forward, and that's so important. So ideally, you would have your business plan in place, and that will allow you to just move forward and implement. And that's going to cut down on so much of the noise and the mental clutter that comes at any moment of change. Because remember, we as human beings, we are also emotional beings. And you may not think that you would feel any sense of loss or any sadness when you're leaving a job, especially if it's a job that you have wanted to run away from, get away from that boss, that horrid boss, or those terrible colleagues. But we as human beings, we have sentimental attachments to things. Maybe it's just the smell of the building, or the bakery downstairs, or that routine that we had been in. And you should leave space in your life for the weaning of those attachments and weaning yourself off the routine of your job. And if you have a business plan in place, that is going to allow you to just concentrate on taking the next step and the next step in your business without all of those other emotional attachments getting in the way. That's just one small part of why a business plan, leaving when you already have a business plan in place, will serve you well as you make the move from being an employee to being the boss or your own boss.
Like a boss.
Now, when we're talking about when to quit, that again is the ideal. But even if you don't have that situation, that even if you haven't built up your side hustle to the point that it is paying more than your current job, even though you don't have a business that the concept has been proven and you can move ahead, it may still be the right move for you to quit your job and start something new, your own business, if it is a situation where it is just too painful to go back into that place. It is just too suffocating for your soul to face the people in that work environment that is really detrimental to your mental health. If it is the situation that the job, the people, the nature of the job, if it's something that you really hate, I remember once meeting an Australian who was traveling around the world. I met her in London, England, and she was paying her way through by working in London at a headhunting agency. And she had just quit when I met her. And she spoke about how that job was just absolutely killing her spirit. It was torture for her to go in and pick up the phone day after day and speak with these prospects who were in good jobs that they enjoyed, and she felt that she was interrupting them and hounding them, because that's how that particular agency worked, that they would they would not really back down when the person said no, and they would pursue and pursue. And she hated that job and was so relieved to have just quit it, even though she did not have anything else lined up. Well, she wasn't starting a business after, but I remember what a relief she felt, because the job just did not suit her at all. So maybe the type of job that you're in is really one that's too painful to continue on in. It could be the people that are around. It can be the circumstances that you have to travel so far and spend so many hours in the car to get to the job, they are no longer allowing you to work from home, whatever the reason, if it's just too painful and your soul can't take it no more, your soul is not able to go the extra mile on that journey, then yes, if it's too detrimental to your mental health, then protect your mental health by all means and give yourself a breather. Life will take care of you. You just put one foot in front of the other and you will be okay, because you have taken that step to take better care of yourself, to ensure that you give yourself the best experience of life, and life will be okay. Everything will be okay. So the third thing we are going to look at is how. How are you going to make that move as you leave one phase of life and enter the other? So the overarching sentiment here is gracefulness. Leave as gracefully as you can. So the first thing is give as much notice as is required.
I quit!
I've been on both sides of the situation as an employee leaving to start out on my own, and that was over 2 decades ago. Haven't looked back since. I've been on the other side as the employer with employees leaving before the contract is up. So it's very important that an employee who is leaving be as respectful as possible of the work environment. It's not just one individual. Whoever is leaving impacts the entire organization. So as far as possible, it's important to give the required notice, and that notice is to allow the managers in that organization to make arrangements for the replacement who will come in, or to divide the work in such a way to your colleagues. So the kindest thing that you can do as you exit a company is to give as much notice, at the minimum the exact required notice, so that the company can make arrangements and your colleagues, your soon-to-be former colleagues, can have an easy as possible transition of your departure. So when we're looking at how you make that transition, be as formal as possible in terms of following the formalities. That is, write a letter of resignation so that it is properly recorded. You never know when that may come up. There may be some circumstances where it's necessary to go back into the records and see when and how and why, etc., that you left the company. So it's always important to have written records of what took place at the time. It's for your benefit as well, and it's good for the company to have that written record for their purposes as well. In speaking about how to make your departure from a company as you go off to start your business, again, it's important to be as diplomatic as possible when you write that letter. It's not the time to say, pull punches and let insults go flying.
No, Chris, I quit. You.
That's not the time or the place or the forum. Maybe when you're chatting with your buddies who are not connected anyway with your workplace, you can vent fully, but that sort of sentiment should be kept out of the earshot of your colleagues and your boss, and absolutely should not be written into a resignation letter. Your resignation letter ideally should be as diplomatic and gentle as possible and graceful as possible. It's always nice to find something nice to say about the place. Search very hard if you Need to, it may be that case that you have to spend hours to find just one thing, but I'm sure you would be able to find at least one thing nice to say about, if not your boss or your colleagues, the company, the industry. Find something nice to start off with, and then when you speak about why you're leaving, be as very concise. You don't have to give any long explanation. And if you say anything about why you're leaving, it's best to just put it on you.
It's not you, it's me.
And not put it on the company. Just to elaborate, it's best to say something like, I'm at a stage where I need to explore more opportunities. And that's why you're, as the explanation for why you're leaving. Instead of saying something like, I have no room to grow in this company and therefore I'm leaving. So rather than blaming the company, speak positively about your own reasons for moving on in a way that will reflect nicely on the entire situation. It's one of you blossoming because you were at this company, you learned, and you have grown so much after being with this company, and you're looking to explore further opportunities. Vague but positive. That's the tone that it would be best to work into your resignation letter. As you leave your job and go off to start your own company, it's important that you make that kind of transition, that very graceful transition. And here's why. You would be going into the business world, and you will find that the business world is a smaller community. There are fewer bosses than there are employees. And the business community is, in most places, a very tight-knit one. Everybody knows everybody else. They meet up in the Chamber of Commerce, or they meet up at certain restaurants or certain clubs. And so your boss will probably be speaking or have some sort of connection with your future suppliers or your future banker or some figure who is important in your business. So just for that reason alone, for selfish reasons, it's important to maintain a good relationship and reputation with your former employer so that there won't be hard feelings and grudges held, and you'd want to smoothen that transition as much as possible so that when you are in that circle of the business community, there won't be friction.
No friction. Got it.
And a final note on how you leave. It could be very tempting as you leave, and especially if you are starting a business that's in the same field as the one that you've been employed in. It could be very tempting to want to call up the clients that you had such a great relationship with over the years in that job and say, I'm starting something new and I've got these great ideas. We're doing something different to how my former boss used to do things. That can be very problematic.
Potentially problematic.
In many ways. One, you should have a look at the contract you signed when you started work. There may have been a clause or two in there that prevent you or restrict you from what's called soliciting clients.
I am going to steal all of your clients.
You may run into very deep trouble and be in danger of being sued if you try to steal your former employer's clients. So have a look at your former employment contract to see what's in there. And even if it's not written into the contract, according to the nature of the job that you held at your former employer or soon to be former employer, you may have what's called a fiduciary duty to your employer. And that means that you had a responsibility to protect the interests of the employer by not causing an exodus of the clients to another company. Be very, very careful when it comes to the idea of trying to take away the customers from your current employer when you start a business. So that's the kind of framework that you can use to work out for yourself whether it is the right time for you to make that move from employee to being your own boss or being the boss at a company that you start. You look at whether all the pieces are in place for you to make that move. Do you fit the characteristics? Is it the right time? And you also would need to ensure that you do it in the right way so that there would be a smooth transition and you would be setting yourself up for success. I'm Celia Sankar and I'm rooting for you. Let's do great things with our lives.